Great stuff, James. Well, joining us now is National Senator Matt Canavan. Great to see you, Matt. Now, let's cut straight to it. We've been talking a lot on this show about we want a Conservative opposition that then forms a Conservative government. What is the future of the Nationals? Is there any hope of some kind of informal or formal coalition with One Nation, for example, now that the coalition with the Liberals is gone? Or how should the Liberals change? Tell us your thoughts, Matt Canavan.
Well, the Nationals Party are our own party. We're the oldest political party, apart from the Labor Party, the oldest political party on the Conservative side of politics in Australia. We have a very proud history, and that history has been built on representing our constituents in a pragmatic, practical way and delivering results. And so, yes, there's been some changes in our relationship with other parties over the past week, but the fundamental objectives, things that we do, actions we take, hasn't changed. What I'll be doing over the next weeks and years ahead is representing my constituents, primarily here in Queensland, as a Senator for Queensland, within the Nationals Party, for those people that live in our smaller towns, for those people, as I like to say, who have to shower after work, not before work, who work hard days and are not represented by those in Canberra anymore. So none of that has changed. I'll just keep doing that. I have the same votes in Parliament as I did last week, just one vote in Parliament, as do my other 17 Nationals Party colleagues. We are a minor party, there's no doubt about that, but we have had a major impact over that century of existence, and I'm confident we'll continue to have that impact, whatever the relationship we have with other parties going forward.
Rita.
Now, there was all sorts of leaking happening earlier in the week, suggestions by the smaller Libs that you are pulling the strings, that David Littleproud is doing as you want. We do know the Nationals want Susan Lee gone before they reconsider the coalition. Who would you like to see as leader, and how can you form a coalition with the Liberals if you are so misaligned on values? I mean, these hate speech laws are just such a fundamental human right issue where the Libs and the Nationals are on opposite sides.
Okay, there's two parts of that. I'll deal with that first part, Rita, and just clarify things. The Nationals Party haven't said that we can't work with certain Liberal leaders. What we have said is that because the current leader of the Liberal Party, Susan Lee, said that she couldn't work with shadow ministers that had voted against these laws, well, by implication, she couldn't work with the entire party room. Because that decision to oppose those laws was a party room decision. We all supported it. It was a collective decision. The mechanics of it were that we gave the Liberal Party time to consider our amendments. That's why we didn't vote against it in the House. Keep in mind, all of this happened very quickly, so it would have been unfair to give the Liberal Party just less than an hour to consider our amendments before the House vote. So we gave them more time by abstaining, and ultimately, though, those amendments weren't agreed to, or none of them were agreed to. We weren't insisting on all of them, but none of them were agreed to. And you know, so consequences flow from that. So it's not about a particular leader. It's just a regrettable fact. I mean, none of us wanted this. We didn't push for an end to the coalition, but we did want to stand up for free speech in this country, for the rights of Australians to freely associate with groups that they like, and we thought the laws were far too broad in their scope. That's why we opposed them. Now, you say those laws go to fundamental rights. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. But it's also the case from my perspective, Rita, and I think my colleagues as well, that we feel no ill will to our Liberal colleagues here. It is perfectly understandable that reasonable people can come to different conclusions on how to balance the right of freedom and the right of safety and security. These are fundamental issues, but they're also highly complex ones. And so I can understand people coming to different judgments about this. And I know the emotion and rhetoric is very hot right now, but I do know in my discussions with Liberal colleagues that they just came to different conclusions about how we protect safety in our community and also try and protect those rights as well.
James.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but these are, of course, you know, as you say, they are pretty fundamental. We just mentioned your leader, David Littleproud's interview with Andrew Clennell a moment ago. I want to ask a question about this, but first let me play a little bit of that.
Andrew,
have you had
I'm not
discussions with, have you or anyone on your behalf had discussions with Andrew Hastie or Angus Taylor about them becoming leader in the coalition being brought together?
This is not a matter for us. It's a matter for the Liberal Party, and we stay away from all that stuff. That's a matter for them to work through.
And there was a number of other bits to that interview which were quite interesting, with David Littleproud essentially refusing to answer a number of questions about his contact with Susan Lee about this whole thing. Are you concerned that the process with the Liberals was mismanaged at the top? And does David Littleproud have your confidence as leader?
Look, I think David's absolutely right not to go into private conversations. Once you start doing that, you can't have frank conversations with anyone anymore. Look, obviously this is the outcome that's happened over the past week has been a little... it's been tough. It's been tough. And it's not what we expected. It's not what I thought a week ago would happen. It's too hard. Look, I can't make judgments on what happened in the communication between leaders because I wasn't there. I just simply wasn't there. And I do think it's regrettable for the first time in my political career, 11 and a half years, that we didn't have a joint party room meeting this week. As I say, I don't know why that didn't happen or how it didn't happen. Obviously, the situation was a fast-moving one, and we only had 2 days of sitting, had a full day of condolence motions. I understand these challenges, but it would have been good to be able to speak frankly to all of my Liberal colleagues. I know in the conversation since the events of this week that many of them weren't aware of the precise nature of the National Party concerns, which is not surprising given we didn't have the joint party room meeting. And I think that if there had been more communication, we probably could have worked things out. Keep in mind that in the Senate, when the vote came, we actually had the Greens support on 2 of our amendments. One of them was a critical amendment. And if the Liberal Party had joined with us on those, that would have become the bill. We would have amended the bill in a way that would have been much, much better. And then we would have put the Labor Party in a very invidious position of having to either support our amendments effectively through the amendment bill or vote against their own legislation. So, again, if we'd had more time to communicate things with people, maybe things would have been different.
But, Matt, I'm sorry, I've got to go back to the point that you've got to understand the frustration of Conservative Australians out in the rural bush. They've got these stupid windmills and solar panels. Our economy is being destroyed. They're losing jobs. We've got a destructive, ghastly Labor government. There's a 60-40 Conservative majority in this country. We know that from The Voice. We know that from data about Australia Day and so on. Why, and I get it every day, people come up to me, why can't we have a proper Conservative government, some kind of alignment between the good Liberals, the Alex Antics, most of the Nats, and One Nation? Because I'm sorry, you've got to admit that One Nation is surging in the opinion polls, ahead of the coalition in some polls, because of that frustration. People aren't interested in the minutiae of all sorts of infighting. They want to know, how can we get rid of Labor and get a Conservative government into this country? Give that message for Australia Day, please. How do we do it?
Absolutely. But the first way of doing that is to take down the bad government, right? And we've still got work to do there. And there's still every opportunity for myself and other parliamentarians to do that, whatever political party you represent, because you have a platform, you can get on shows like this, you can ask questions in the Parliament, you can go into committees to put pressure on the government. Those are the things we've got to do first. We've got to do that first. And to date, we haven't done a bad job of that. I mean, lost in all of this, of course, over the past week, understandably, but lost in all of this is that the Labor Party aren't exactly doing that well, and the Prime Minister isn't doing that well. So that is our first task. And I just make the point that, yes, there's a lot of focus on who's who in the zoo in Canberra, who's leader, who's in a coalition with who's in the shadow ministry. But ultimately, people don't really, as you say, care about that. They do care about how they're being governed and how badly things are going in this country. And in the United Kingdom, it took 3 months for a new shadow ministry to be formed after the 2024 general election. That was because they elected a new leader during that process. So there was no shadow ministry in the Parliament. The Parliament sat for nearly 40 days over that period. No shadow ministry. And the Starmer government had the biggest fall in popularity of any elected government in any country in history. And so, to my mind, that does show and demonstrate that, look, we get a little bit too obsessed about who's the shadow minister for communications right now. Does that really matter to the Australian people? No. What matters is that we're doing our jobs as parliamentarians. That is our primary job, and I'll continue to do that. I know, and I'm proud of my National Party's colleagues who have done that this week. We've done our job as parliamentarians in properly reviewing legislation and properly coming to a view on it. If we just keep doing that, we'll put ourselves in a good position. Now, close to the election, we have to think about how things are all formed and how we present ourselves as an alternative Conservative force. I would just say that we've had 4 times in opposition since World War II as Conservative political forces. In 2 of those previously 3 times, we have had times apart as Liberal and National parties. This might be the 3rd, but we were successful before with those breakups, and I'm confident we'll be successful again because this is a terrible government that the Australian people are seeing through that have no plan for our future.
Hear, hear. Matt Canavan, always great to chat to you. Thanks so much. Have a great Australia Day and a great and happy Australia Day to all your wonderful people up there in far north Queensland. Fantastic. Thanks, Matt Canavan.